Good morning, good morning. I'm going to be a little distracted this morning because our campus minister, Riley Pickrell, and his brother are currently finishing a half Ironman. So Riley has about 9 miles left in his run of 13.1 miles, half marathon. And it looks like either my app's not updating or Avery's at a transition station, so I don't know for sure. But they are doing a great job. I was kind of hoping that they were going to finish, like Riley's going to finish while I was preaching. So I might drag out the sermon. No, I'm not going to do that. You guys know me. I'm not going to do that. So good morning once again. I wanted to talk a little bit about shortcuts. And I'm going to define shortcuts, and by define, I mean I don't want to use like a dictionary definition, but just kind of like the idea of what the concept of a shortcut, because shortcuts, by and large, what I'm going to be talking about are going to be a negative thing, but technically, there are kind of good shortcuts, like the idea of making a process easier or smoother or making things more efficient or effective. Those are kind of like good shortcuts, like your keyboard shortcuts and all that. I use that a lot at work, making like little templates to be able to not have to write out a whole paragraph every time I send an email. But there are bad shortcuts, which essentially can boil down to doing less work to get to the end quicker. So good shortcuts could just be better results, bad shortcuts, faster results. And something about the cadence of that really reminded me of, I don't know if anyone's young enough to have watched Animaniacs growing up, but one of their shorts that they had was good idea, bad idea. Hey! And it was just like, it would present like something that's a good idea, or maybe, honestly, maybe even a neutral idea. And they change like a word, or change a little thing and to show that it's a bad idea. So for example, taking a breath, good idea. Take a breath before jumping into a pool. Bad idea. Take a breath after jumping in a pool. Another one was good idea. Playing catch with your grandfather. Bad idea. Playing catch with your grandfather. So it was, I just love the cadence of that. But we're going to be going over to Hebrews chapter 12, I'm sorry. And as we do that, the title of my lesson today is Measure Twice, Cut Once. And for the bulk of this planning, it was going to be slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I love that saying. But as I was looking up images on the internet, I really liked the image of, that. I really liked that. That made me really laugh, the measure, because that person clearly did not measure twice. And, but they probably did cut once, I think. So I really liked that image. That changed the whole title. Hebrews chapter 12, starting in verse 14, it says, "Make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. See that no one is sexually immoral or is godless like Esau, who for a single meal sold his inheritance rights as the oldest son. Afterward, as you know, when he wanted to inherit this blessing, he was rejected. And even though he sought the blessings with tears, he could not change what he had done." And I think about what make every effort. It flies in the face of negative versions of shortcuts, because even to get the good shortcuts that I was talking about, like that does take work. Like in the long run, eventually it will lead to less work and things going quicker, but on the front end, it'll take a little bit more effort. It'll take a little bit more work. And there's a story, and it's going to involve some names that I am not sure about the pronunciation, so I apologize in general, and then especially to Spanish translation. I'm not sure. I'm just going to be doing the best I can. But in India, there was a man named Dashrath Manji, who's also known as the Mountain Man. He's an Indian man who worked in coal mines after running away from home and becoming an agricultural laborer. First he was a coal laborer, and then he became an agricultural laborer. He lived in the village of Galar, which was bordered on the south by a steep ridge that prevented road access. Now, in 1959, when he was 25 years old, his wife was injured, and because the nearest doctor was 43 miles away, she passed away. Heartbroken, Dashrath resolved to prevent what happened to his wife from happening to anyone else, and using only a hammer and chisel, began to cut a 30-foot wide, 20-foot high path through the ridge. He was mocked by villagers, but continued for years, although Dashrath himself did say that eventually many assisted him with food and replacement tools. He worked for 22 years, shortening the path from 34.2 miles to 9.3 miles. Rough math would estimate that the nearest doctor went from 43 miles to 18 miles. It was only after he passed, but eventually that path that he had cut through the mountain was given a proper road laid down for people to use. For 22 years, in the face of mockery, and can you even in this moment, I'm realizing like he is doing this work for his wife that passed away, and he's being mocked. Like I could see maybe people like not supporting him or kind of being like, okay, do your thing, just like work through this. But to mock somebody who had lost their wife, from everything I read, was something that could have been fixable with medical attention. To mock him for putting in this effort. And nowhere did I read, I didn't go through the entire internet, but I read a couple of articles, and nowhere does it say that anyone actually like worked with him. Like, yes, thank goodness people gave him food, and thank goodness people gave him tools. But as far as I can tell, he chiseled every inch of that by himself. That man put in every effort. Now, what does every effort look like as a disciple? Because there's standard stuff that whether we're working on or we're learning about, there's some standard things like praying to God and getting advice from others and reading your Bible. But what does every effort look like? What's going above and beyond? About trying something different, and if it doesn't work, to try something beyond that. Fasting. And when I say fasting, I really appreciate Josh Burak's communion from a few weeks ago when he was talking about Sabbath. And I feel like for most of my disciple life, I viewed Sabbath as like just, okay, rest and recovery. Worn out, tired, I will just stop moving and do nothing. But realizing that Sabbath is more, that may be part of it, but there is a worship and a focus on God that I was definitely missing when I was taking a Sabbath, when I would take a Sabbath. And likewise, even with fasting, not that it's easy to go, however long without food. That's obviously difficult in and of itself. But it's not just not eating or giving up whatever you're giving up to fast. It's when you grow weak, when you want to give in and take whatever you've been giving up, to be focusing on God, to be looking to God for strength, to be remembering why you're doing it, and not just doing it. The idea of like podcasts and books and essays, not to replace the Bible or advice or anything else, but as a supplemental source of information, to get another line of thinking that maybe you wouldn't have thought of yourself, to go looking for these things. Obviously everyone can get recommended something, but when was the last time you tried to grow and learn something beyond just your routine? When was the last time you tried to do something different? And even to go beyond that, because I do think when things just aren't working out and we're frustrated, we do want to try something different. I actually think that is a strength of, we have that idea of, they say if you do craziness is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I actually think we're a group that does try different things. But are we trying different things when we're kind of reaching the end of our rope? When what we've been doing doesn't work? Do we wait to that point? Or do we say, okay, this is going well, but what can I do more? What can I do better? What can am I doing everything that God wants me to do? What am I missing something? Like I'm doing this, but is there something else that could be improved? Making every effort. That scripture in Hebrews talks about Esau. And we're going to read about him a little bit in Genesis chapter 25. And in verse 27, it said the boys, and this is Esau and his twin brother Jacob. And Esau, I don't think it says right in the scripture, but Esau is the older brother. The boys grew up, and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was content to stay at home among the tents. Isaac, their father, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah, their mother, loved Jacob. Once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country, famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." This is why he was also called Edom. Esau comes in, and yeah, I never really understood what it meant by being out in the open country, but from a little research, Esau is a hunter. And his version of hunting was not kind of sitting in a blind waiting for something to walk by, pulling a trigger. He's going and tracking and chasing and running, and there's a lot of physical activity involved in it. And the theory is that at this point, he went on a hunt and failed in the hunt, so he's not bringing anything back. So to take a phrase from Kurt, he's at a significant caloric deficit. So basically, he's real hungry. He's real hungry. And he is exhausted to not just kind of hungry, and not even he's beyond even hangry. He's at a level that you really only get to when you have not been paying attention to what you've been eating, and when you've been doing maybe a little bit too much physical activity. It's that you're getting that white bit around your eyes, everything, you're getting a little dizzy. I think that's where he's at, and he just wants whatever's in front of him. Because here's the thing, he comes back to a camp, there's probably other food that he could get. There's probably more food that he could have access to, but he's extremely hungry, he's starving, and this is what's right in front of him. And so he gives up his inheritance, his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob asking for his birthright, that's probably a whole other sermon, but the fact of the matter is Esau gives up his birthright. And for the most part, I've kind of not been sure what that meant. What is being the oldest, what does having that birthright mean in those times? And part of what it is there's a double portion of the inheritance. So let's say, there's the inheritance, the oldest, or whoever has the birthright, would get 2/3, and the other child would get 1/3. Now, I don't know what that means when you start having more children, but at least in the case of 2 children, it's 2/3 and 1/3. And there is approximately about 1,000 people that Esau or whoever has that birthright would be over. It's not just leadership of the family of their little unit of people, but it's a community that he would be leading. And along with that community are all the animals associated with all those families. Those would arguably be his, because he's over that community. And we're talking 8,000, 12,000 animals, depending on before or after the divide. So he is giving up all these things for one meal. And I'll be real, I'm not super excited by the idea of lentil stew. I don't know. I've been real hungry. It's hard to imagine being hungry enough to give up everything for a lentil soup. But I don't know, maybe it was really good back then. But Esau gave up what was rightfully his for that meal because he was hungry then, and that's all he could focus on, was I'm hungry now, there's food in front of me. He took a shortcut. There were other ways for him to get food. He realistically was not going to die, but he felt like he was going to die of hunger, so he took the first thing that came his way. He didn't even try to, he didn't try to even negotiate. Hey, maybe let's split it down the middle or something. He just said all right, just that's fine, I'll take it. No negotiation. He's just, all right, I'll take this bowl of stew. He wasn't at full strength when he was presented with this stew. He was physically at his weakest. I think for us, temptations come when your defenses are down. And there's really no way to get to a point where you're never not going to be weak. You can be strong most of the time, but you'll still have times when you're weak. And we need to be aware that those are the times when Satan comes. And the other thing is too, sometimes we think we know what our temptations are going to be. We're all right, this is my weakness, this is my weakness, this is my weakness. Cool. The thing about Satan is such a strategist. He'll know that, okay, you're looking for those 3 things. I'm going to hit you with this thing that you are strong in, or hit you with this thing that you've never even thought about before. But all of a sudden, there it is. I had a friend who, when he was studying the Bible with someone, he hadn't, in his pre-disciple life, he had been a very pure person. He didn't really struggle with purity. Then as he studied the Bible, he would hear some confessions. After that happened, that became a weakness of his. It had been even before he became a disciple, it had been a strength of his. But then all of a sudden it was a weakness because he was never prepared for it. He never thought he had to worry about it. We can be so focused on, like, all right, I need to work on this, this, and this. And that's true. Those are probably things you need to work on. But there's always going to be something deeper beyond just whatever our weaknesses are going to be. There's going to be how strong are we in God, so that when we are weak in the things that we relied on, that maybe we thought were strengths, when those are taken away, what are we relying on? Temptation comes when your defenses are down. I'm almost positive that this has been shared about during a sermon before, but when you think of the word Stanford University experiment, typically, I'm not going to talk about it, typically, we will think about the prison experiment. But they also did another one, which, again, I believe most of you will have heard of, about the marshmallow experiment, where, and it's been very, I'm going to make up words, sorry, cutified at this point, too. There's been these videos going around where it's either a marshmallow or like a piece of chocolate or something like that, where parents or whatever will put their kids at a table, put down a piece of chocolate or a marshmallow, and say, if you eat one, or I'm going to leave, you can eat this now, or if you wait until I get back, you can have two. And so the video I watched, it was real fun. It had a lot of different reactions the kids had. There was one with clearly a brother and a sister, and he is trying to get her to not eat it. He keeps telling, like, if you eat it, like, she's gonna know. Like, she's like, takes one bite, and he's like, you took a bite, you're not gonna get another one. But it was funny to see how some of the kids reacted. Like, some were just like clearly trying to distract themselves. There was one, like, man, this kid has some strong will, just kind of sitting there like. And there's one little girl. It's possible that the researcher was still in the room. It was close in on her, so I don't know if she was by herself, but the thing went down, and within 5 seconds, no shame. She wasn't like upset her hands. She was like, all right, I got a marshmallow. But yeah, it was funny to see the different reactions, where one girl ate it right away. Some would like keep touching it, just like poking at it. One like picked it up and like licked it, and just put it down, like didn't eat it, right? Did not take a bite, but licked it. And I gotta imagine that one who licked it, their weight got a lot harder. Because they're like, I know what it tastes like now. And maybe I can get away with licking like the other side. I can lick more of it. If I lick it and it kind of melts, does that count as eating it? Is there a loophole here? But this is kind of how we can treat gratification and temptation. We're just like, all right, just a little loophole. I didn't actually do it. Right? I didn't do it. I'm thinking about it. I thought about it. I almost did it. But I didn't do it. I'm still thinking about it, though. I still could do it. We want to try to kind of, this is normally said as a good thing, right? Of like dipping your toe in the water. Like just kind of try it out a little bit. But with temptation, things that can distract us, like it's not that bad. Not a big deal. Like, is it a really big deal that one piece of the marshmallow was missing? Not really. No one else was going to eat it anyway. Is it that big a deal? But the deal was, don't eat the marshmallow. We take a little bit sometimes, and there's no immediate consequence. Again, that one little girl who ate the whole thing, I don't know what happened. I don't know if they still waited for the whole, minute or two. For the little girl that was eating it little by little, nothing happened right away. The one that licked it, nothing happened right away. Likewise, though, for the ones that were being patient, there was also no immediate response. There was technically, like they were told that they were going to get a marshmallow. They could have been being lied to. They don't know. I mean, obviously, they're kids, they're trusting these adults, but technically, the researcher could come back in and said, no, we actually don't have any marshmallows. There was no result. It's not like once the little girl took that bite, the researcher came back in and said, well, you don't get one, but you do because you waited. There's no immediate response sometimes, either way. And so sometimes we just, on the one hand, when we're kind of dipping our toe into temptation, no immediate response, try it again. No big deal. Nobody was hurt. Try it again. Try a little more. On the flip side, doing good, being patient, giving every effort. No immediate response. What's the point? Is this the right thing? Did I misunderstand the instructions? Was I supposed to prevent her from eating her marshmallow? There's not an immediate response. Sometimes no consequences will affect the actions. If there's no consequences for doing the wrong thing, then what's to stop you from doing it again? If there's no consequences for doing the right thing, why do you want to keep doing it? Sometimes we don't feel the negative effects of a shortcut. We get that immediate victory of that happened faster. Why not try it again? Why not try it in a bigger way, have greater effect? There may not be a negative consequence after that. You may keep doing it. But at the end of the day, you are hurting yourself. You're cutting yourself off at the knees. Something I'd like to say I've been working on, but I really haven't, but I am now, hopefully, is vulnerability and communication. And, Kurt and now Riley come up here a lot and talk about the events that they do. And I'm not really one to do that. I'll throw out a Tough Mudder reference every now and then. But usually when I'm up here, I'm not talking about any extreme physical events. And some of you may know, but very few of you know because of me, but some of you may know that I have actually signed up for an Ironman, half Ironman, for next month. But most of you who might know probably know because of Kurt. I have told very few people. And part of that is because I don't want to talk about it, because I'm worried about it. And I don't want to have to tell people, like, hey, I signed up for this. And then a month from now, hey, how was it? I didn't finish. Or I was never really worried about this happening, but like, I didn't do it. I didn't go. I canceled. I am not one to share about those kind of things. Just people will find out when they find out. And now as we're getting closer, truth be told, my confidence in this has like roller coastered. I signed up after a couple of the guys did a half Ironman last year, and I saw the finish line, and I had no intention of signing up. I was like, Tough Mudder is my max. That's it. I'm not about to do 70.3 miles. But I went with them to hang out. Not even volunteer. Two of the guys who went volunteered. I didn't even want to do that. But I was there, and I waited at the finish line. And I'd see a number of people cross. And a lot of the people that crossed are the kind of people you would imagine, just really in shape. And they could probably do another one after that. There were a couple people, though, that I saw that I was surprised they were doing this. Just to be shallow and judgmental, I was like, how did you do this? And I mean, honestly, to be real, I was like, you look like me. How are you doing this? But they did it. And honestly, a few of them were like, looked like they could go again. Like they didn't just barely stumble across the finish line. Like they ran across with confidence. They finished strong. And I was like, man, that's got to feel good. And it made me feel in a way I hadn't felt since like my first Tough Mudder, which was a long time ago at this point. And so it didn't happen right away. And I told Kurt that I was thinking about it, but a couple days, I don't know when I signed up, but a couple days later, I was like, I think I'm doing it. I think I'm doing it when it signs up. And then the sign-ups came out. And I was like, oh, I didn't promise I was going to do it. I said I was going to do it. I didn't say when. I didn't say the next one. Just one day. But I signed up so that I couldn't, so in theory, I couldn't not do it. And here's the other thing. Once you sign up, the most you can get back is half your money. And it is not cheap. So once I thought, I was like, I have to do it. I can't just throw away all that money. And so over the course, there went in with like like it was far away. So of course I'm real confident. Long time, a year away, plenty of time. Then we start the training. I'm like, oh, this is tough. This is tough. Confidence going down. This is rough. Like, oh, but it's still so far away. Confidence going back up. All right, this is fine. Then I bought the bike before winter so I could ride it a little bit. Like, all right, confidence going back up. I have a bike. Excellent. And then I didn't really ride it, and like, oh man, like it's cold. I don't want to ride in the cold. And then just keeps going up and down, up and down. And then I get my first injury. Not training related, but I have like a shoulder impingement on my left shoulder. Starts throwing things off a little bit. And training hasn't really started at this point. Could I have trained at that time? Yeah, I probably could have, probably should have, but I wasn't. So there's a little shoulder injury. And I start going to PT for that. That's fine. Then I get a hamstring injury, where I just can't, to the point like, one, I can't do any dynamic movements, but even like walking hurts, going upstairs hurts. And it's one of those things where like you forget about it, and then you do something real fast. And it's like, oh, right, I'm injured. And so I'm not able to do some more training. And then I have oral surgery. Can't go in the pool. Can't do laps. Like confidence going down again. Like swimming's supposed to be what I'm good at. Like, yeah, but I can't train right now. And then hamstring starts to get better. Right shoulder has an impingement now. It's like, oh. And then like, okay, I was on the bike before, no problem. Now I'm on the bike for a little, not even a long time, on the bike, and then the shoulder starts hurting. Like, oh my gosh, like, okay, confidence going back down again. I'm like, all right, I'm still able to do some of these trainings, got back in the pool. I'm able to run again. I was able to run for Sweating for Souls, which I didn't think was going to happen. Not a lot, just for the record, but I was able to run. I got a 13.1 in, so confidence going back up. Yesterday, got the wetsuit on for the first time. It's like, all right, this is good. I got my wetsuit. Needed help putting it on because it's way harder than you think it is. Get in the water, start swimming in the lake. I'm like, this is really hard to do. I can't lift my shoulders up. I'm swimming like this. Oh my gosh, I'm so slow right now. Confidence going way back down. Like, all right, you know what? Like, we may not have to wear the wetsuit. Like, it's summertime, might be okay. So take off the wetsuit, start swimming. Shoulder still hurts. Oh my gosh, confidence going back down. So it's a journey of like, man, this is going to be tough. And so, not that I took blatant shortcuts, but I look back and I think of where I could have done more. Like, I hate to say that while I did give a lot of effort, I can look back and say that I did not give every effort over this time. Could have addressed some of the injuries earlier, could have started training earlier, could have not been so overconfident about, there were a lot of things that could be done differently. Sometimes shortcuts aren't on purpose. Sometimes it's just because we're not thinking things through, maybe because we're just a little overconfident, maybe because we allow ourselves to be distracted by other things. We get busy, we have lives. It is hard to train for a half Ironman while you have a normal, regular life. Like, there are pros who do this for a living. Like, their job is to train, and then there's regular people racing alongside them. Literally, Riley and Avery right now. Neither one of them are professional athletes, but they are racing alongside them right now. And Riley has 6.54 miles left. Oh, 6.52, my bad. There are reasons that we cannot give our all. And They can seem like good ones. They can seem like reasonable distractions. But they can shortchange us. What do shortcuts look like as disciples? Relying on other people's spiritual experience to fill you up. Rather than your own relationship with God, you either talk to or just get talked to by other people about theirs and utilize that to fill you up. Being just vulnerable enough to not draw any suspicion. And then skillfully changing the subject and asking a question to redirect the conversation. Still on that subject, so it's related, but now we're not talking about you anymore. Using outside joy and service to reduce concerns about how you're doing. Like, oh, you're so happy, nothing's wrong with you. I'm not going to check in on you. Like, oh, you give so much to the church. You do so much. Like, oh, like, you're doing fine. Only someone who's doing well is going to give that much. And the reason I use these three examples is they are examples that I have used in my life. Not a long time ago. These are ones that I fight with. And unfortunately, not only is it that it's recent, I've been doing some of them for a long time. And so I've gotten good at them. And so it's very easy for me. I can sometimes see when I'm about to be caught and switch tactics. There are shortcuts in our lives that are shortchanging us. And when we do that, we lose opportunities to grow. We lose opportunities to learn. And even beyond ourselves, we lose opportunities to help others, for others to see our humility, for others to be able to see our growth and our victories. But we're shortchanging ourselves. Trading maturity for shortcuts may bring instant gratification, but the value of the experience lost is incalculable. You cannot, because we underestimate, and we can probably never truly know our impact on others. Even complete strangers, they don't actually know our names, but they see us do something or interact with us very briefly. But when we shortchange ourselves, we shortchange them. And the lesson learned from mistakes, we lose the satisfaction of self-improvement and growth. And you owe it to yourself to celebrate those experiences. You owe it to yourself to be proud of that growth. To be able to look back and say, this is where I was and this is where I got to. And to be able to fully embrace it, to fully welcome it. You know, again, just kind of thinking of the idea of races, like, I imagine that this day and age, it's borderline impossible to cheat at a race without technology. Like, I don't think you can, like, take a literal shortcut, like, through the crowd or something and then, like, pop back in before the finish line. But let's just say that was possible and people did that. Even if you're not found out, you would always know that you did not really finish that race. Doesn't matter if there's no consequences whatsoever. Doesn't matter if there was, like, you got a money prize and now they're starting to take it away from you. Like, no, like, you would always know, even if no one else finds out, you would know that you did not finish that race. Don't do that to yourself. Put in the hard work, take the steps, and celebrate your finish. God be the glory. We're just going to come up for one last song.